Today I'm going to go through what I'd do if I had to try to build and maintain muscle with as little time as possible in the gym. We'll go through 3 workouts and try to keep each within about 30 minutes. But first, just a modicum of realism. Regardless of how efficient and effective you make a 30-minute workout, it will never be as good as a 60-minute workout. The idea is to increase training efficiency to get the best results possible in the time available. But even at 100% efficiency, if we did everything right, 30 minutes 3 times a week is not enough to maximize gains. Generally speaking, when all else is equal, more time in the gym equals more gains. And that remains true right up to quite a high point that most people with jobs and responsibilities and lives aren't ever going to reach. So all we can really aim for is to make the most of the time we do spend in the gym. And even if you do have the time to do slightly more or slightly longer workouts, this video should hopefully help you do that. There are a few things that we'll do today to try to get the most muscle building training stimulus into the shortest workout. We'll focus on exercises that give the best return on investment. We'll focus on rep ranges that give the best return on investment. We'll use different set types, and we'll keep rest periods as short as they can reasonably be. One thing we cannot overlook that's going to impact how effective short workouts can be for you is actually your fitness. In an ideal world without time constraints, we'd rest for long enough in between sets such that we're near fully recovered. What that looks like in practice is your heart rate being almost back to baseline and your strength drop off through each subsequent set being very gradual. One indication that you're not resting long enough is a dramatic drop in performance. Now, of course, the fitter you are, the better able to recover between sets you'll be and the less rest you'll need. But we'll also look at this problem from both ends of the equation and try to choose exercises that give a good hypertrophy stimulus whilst keeping systemic fatigue to a minimum. I'll elaborate as we choose some exercises. I need a drink. Sippy cup, mate, like a 7-year-old. For this 3-day split, we're going to do a horizontal push-pull day, essentially a chest press, a row, and some arms, a leg day, and a vertical push-pull day, which is really just an overhead press, a pull down, and some arms. Now, most people's go-to 3-day split would be push-pull legs, but the logic here with these push-pull days is that we'll be able to use antagonistic supersets, which essentially just means supersets comprised of exercises that do opposing actions, with the simplest example being a bicep curl straight into a tricep extension. Let's just get into it, shall we? Day 1, horizontal push-pull. We'll start with parallel bar dips, and we'll do 2 straight sets of 8 with 2.5 minutes rest in between. What's important here, and with all compound movements in this split, is that we don't hit failure on these 2 sets. We can get just as good gains getting 1 or 2 reps away from failure, but with less fatigue, which means better recovery before the next set and therefore better performance. Then we'll do a final rest pause set. This time we'll take it all the way to failure before resting 20 to 30 seconds, going to failure again, resting another 20 to 30 seconds, and going to failure again. Typically you wouldn't do myo reps or rest pause reps on exercises this taxing, but since today's workout is really short, there isn't much we need to conserve energy for. After that, we'll rest for 2.5 minutes before the same set structure with some chest supported rows. These are so much less fatiguing than non-supported rows, and therefore should allow us to knock rest periods down to 2 minutes. Again, 2 sets of 8 plus 1 set with 2 lots of myo reps. I'd also use straps because we're trying to keep all of our effort focused on the target muscle group and minimize any fatigue elsewhere. Now we'll give chest and back a rest while moving on to some arms, and we'll use those antagonistic supersets we mentioned earlier. There are a lot of exercises you could choose from here, but of course you need to consider how easy they are to set up and transition between. I'm going to do some easy bar curls and overhead tricep extensions. So we'll do our set of curls with a weight that allows us to get close to failure, around 10 reps, and then we'll go immediately into our overhead extensions. After that, we'll just take 45 seconds rest before repeating the process once more for a total of 2 sets on each exercise. As these aren't very demanding exercises, there shouldn't be much generalized fatigue building up. You shouldn't be out of breath. If you are, just worry or go for a run. This means all we really need to think about is the fatigue that's specific to the muscle being trained, i.e. your biceps and your triceps. With each of these getting 45 seconds plus the time it takes for your set on the other muscle to rest, that should be fine for them to recover to a level where you can achieve a good stimulus from your next set. Now in theory, you could use these antagonistic supersets for compound movements like presses and rows, but in practice, whichever exercise comes second would likely be affected so much by all of that general fatigue that you wouldn't be able to achieve a meaningful training stimulus, i.e. shift enough weight enough times to cause you to grow. Next up, more supersets. This time we're going to use the pec deck machine to superset some pec deck chest flies with some rear delt flies. Same structure again, perform one set, go immediately into the other set, then rest for 45 seconds. Sets of 10 to 12 should be fine, lower might feel a bit uncomfortable on a chest fly movement. That's your workout, I've done it, it took me 34 minutes. Day 2, legs. We're going to start leg day with a leg press. You know that I think Bulgarian split squat is pretty much the best all-round leg exercise you can do, but since there's such a high fatigue and time cost, there's just no way we can justify them today, unfortunately. So find a leg press that feels good, and we're just going to stick to 4 straight sets of 8 with 2.5 minutes rest in between. Even though this is less fatiguing than squats or lunges because you're not expending so much energy bracing and stabilizing the weight, it's still too fatiguing to really get anything worthwhile out of rest pause reps, and we're definitely not involving it in a superset unless the goal of the workout is to become deceased. Now, this is going to take up almost half of your workout, but to put it simply, however long you have some heavy presses or lunges or split squats will always be worthwhile. In fact, I'm half tempted to say, if you don't want or need to train calves, you actually wouldn't go far wrong just dedicating your entire 30 minutes to heavy split squats or lunges or barbell squats. You'd still end up with decent legs. Anyway, I do need to train calves, sadly, so let's move on to those. We'll use the standing calf raise machine or a Smith machine with a block or ramp and use a weight that will get us to around failure in 16 to 20 reps. We're going to rest 20 seconds and then go to failure again, rest 20 seconds, hit failure again, and then once more. So we've done 1 set plus 3 lots of myo reps or rest pause reps. We'll rest for another 90 seconds and then repeat that once more. We now should have hit failure 8 times over both sets. Finally, we're going to superset some leg curls into some leg extensions. I do it this way around because the leg curls will accrue much less generalized fatigue since hamstrings are a much smaller muscle group. So we'll do a set of 10 on seated leg curls and then immediately go into a set of 10 on leg extensions. We'll then have 1 minute rest and repeat for a total of 2 sets. We'll then take our rest period and do 1 more set of just leg curls, and we'll drop set that with 2 steps. So hit failure, reduce the weight to a number that still allows you to get at least 5 more reps, hit failure again, reduce the weight, hit failure again. The reason I'm omitting quads here from this final set is because they've already had some work on leg press, so I think any remaining time probably best directed towards hamstrings. I do think rest pause is probably a better choice in most cases than a drop set, but a drop set is quicker and that's the only reason why we're going for it here. That should take us close to the 30-minute mark. It took me about 33 minutes, but if you do have any time left, I'd probably just grab a barbell, do some walking lunges until you approach just death, just being kaput. Day 3, vertical push-pull. We'll start with a Smith machine seated press. Again, 2 straight sets of 8 with 2.5 minutes rest. Then a 3rd set to failure, resting for 20 to 30 seconds, hitting failure again, resting for another 20 to 30, and hitting failure for a final time. I think the Smith press is the best option here because it most closely emulates the free bar overhead press, but with less fatigue from stabilizing the bar, and it's far easier to do our rest pause reps because we don't have to re-rack the bar and walk in and out of the rack each time. For our vertical pull, we'll just hit some lat pull downs. Again, same set structure, but we'll knock the rest periods down to 2 minutes. Again, first 2 sets stopping short of failure, then the final set going to failure, followed by 2 extra lots of myo reps to failure. Next, we'll superset some lateral raises with some straight arm cable pull downs. If you can use a machine lateral raise, do. Now these aren't exactly antagonistic, but they're still not going to have any local crossover fatigue, and they're both low enough general fatigue to include in a superset. I'd do 2 supersets with 45 seconds rest in between, and then for your final set we'll do lateral raises only, taking those to failure, resting for 20, going to failure again, resting for another 20, and going to failure again. Finally, we'll hit some quick supersets on biceps and triceps. This time we'll just do some cable curls with push downs because they're so easy to transition between. Again, circa 10 reps on curls, immediately into around 10 on push downs, then 45 seconds rest before repeating once more and going to failure on that final set. So that is our 3-day quick as possible training split that you can use if you don't have much time or don't want to spend much time in the gym. Actually, even if you're just new to lifting but not time limited, this would be fine as a very basic beginner training split, but I'd maybe just add 30 to 60 seconds onto the rest times or another couple of sets here and there. Even if you do, just ignore the workouts. There's one takeaway point, which is that if you're limited on time, you shouldn't just go into the gym and smash through as many reps and sets as possible, at least not if you're trying to build muscle. Essentially, there's a balance to be struck between the quantity of sets and the quality of sets. If you try to squeeze too many in, you won't recover enough and your set quality will drop. But if you rest for too long, beyond enough rest, you're not gaining anything performance-wise, but just limiting the total number of sets you'll be able to do. Hopefully that was helpful. Bye.
Joey Lenny is my hero.